guess it was like the end of November. I always had this mole that it probably had been checked for years because I have to say, I'm pretty diligent about my skin appointments, my daughter's. It was kind of big, and I had one on my face just like it.
You heard the word melanoma. What was the first thing that went through your mind in that moment?
That I'm going to die.
As a clinician, we lose sleep over these skin lesions because this type, it's just a very normal looking type of skin lesion. If you could say one thing to the listeners right now, what would it be?
It would just schedule that skin check. I mean, I have so many people that I say that to, and they're like, oh, well, I don't have any problems, Or I go to the derm, but they don't go for skin checks. And that's the difference.
Welcome back to the DERM Expert podcast. Today's episode takes us beyond the exam room and into the lived experience of melanoma. My guest is Bridget Huckabee, one of my patients and a melanoma survivor, who's here to share how one small skin lesion changed her life. So Bridget, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let's just jump right in. Let's rewind back to February of 2023.
Yes.
What brought you into my office that day?
Okay, so I had seen you for a while, and I knew you were opening your own practice. And I guess it was like the end of November. I always had this mole that it probably had been checked for years because I have to say, I'm pretty diligent about my skin appointments, my daughter's, we really didn't miss. So it was kind of big, and I had one on my face just like it. Light skin tone, perfectly symmetrical. But I think I subconsciously rubbed it often, because it was right there and it was kind of smooth. And one day I was like, did this get bigger? I don't know if it did or not, but it just, I don't know. Something said, I don't know if it was subconscious, whatever. But I said, okay, well, my appointment's not supposed to be till June, but I knew where you were originally, I wouldn't have been able to get in anyway. The schedule was always so tight. Knew you were opening in January. So I said, okay, it's probably nothing, but I'll call. So in January, called you all to make the transition in anyway. And I think I did. No. So, and I was in I think by mid-February.
Yeah, it was.
And so that was really 4 or 5 months earlier than my scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
So I just said, I don't know, if it has, changed or anything, but I don't know.
So it's interesting because thinking back on this place on your arm, it was really unique. This is one of those types of skin lesions that I talk about all the time that as a clinician, we lose sleep over these skin lesions because this type, it's just a very normal looking type of skin lesion. We went ahead and biopsied yours. And in going back in my mind, thinking about why did we biopsy it if it appeared to be benign? I think there were 3 things about yours that really kind of stood out to me when you came in. Number one, it brought you in. Mm-hmm. So what I have seen with patients clinically is if there's a concern or if there's a problem or something that they're noticing and they come in because of it, even if I look at it and there's really nothing impressive about the way that it looks, if there's something that has brought a patient in, that's a significant finding for me. Mm-hmm. So it was something that brought you in. So that was sort of a concern. But then also, too, it's not uncommon to develop new moles or new places that come up on our bodies, especially certain parts of our bodies. Back, abdomen, face, we see new spots that come up there all the time. An elbow, which was where yours was also sort of unusual. So you don't typically see moles on elbows. Mm-hmm. So the location of yours also was unusual. But then I believe yours was symptomatic. I think you were talking about maybe there was a different feel or there was something different that was happening with it.
Maybe it had itched at one day, like literally for one day.
Yes.
But it had been there as long as I can remember.
Right.
And like I say, probably for 10 plus years, just it looked everything, the way it presented was, this is benign. I have a million moles. I had the one on my face. I have everywhere, And so it wasn't new at all. And I couldn't really tell you if it had gotten bigger. Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting that it was getting your attention all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And that is so important for patients to know that one piece, because even despite the fact that it had been there, it wasn't, there wasn't anything visually necessarily changing with it. There was something that was getting your attention. And that's the key. That is so critical.
Acting on that.
Yes.
Acting on that. Because I know a lot of people that just go like, oh, yeah, I've had this forever. And yeah, my knee hurts. And they go 3 years without doing anything about it. But
why do you think that is?
I don't know. Because it makes zero sense to me. People kind of laugh at how much I'm not a hypochondriac, but I will react, and so I don't know. I don't know why you would not want the relief of knowing something is okay, because most of the time it is okay.
That is true.
Yeah, most of the time. The odds are it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But if it's not, wouldn't you want to know that?
So it's interesting. I see this all the time with patients. And I think that, there are really kind of two reasons why patients maybe don't come in, or why they, hesitate to make the appointment. And I think fear and anxiety really drive a lot of that decision. I think there's obviously the fear and anxiety around just the procedure of a biopsy, not really knowing what's that like, what's going to happen, is it going to hurt? I think there's that level of fear and anxiety. But I think the whole period of time after a biopsy, that waiting period of what's the result going to be? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? What if it's bad? And I think that's what deters a lot of people from coming in. What did that period of time look like for you, that waiting period?
I'm going to be honest with you, because it looked like it was nothing. I used to have a cockiness that everything is going to be fine. I'm going to get it taken care of, but I'm healthy, I know, and things work out for me or whatever, it's going to be fine. So when I got that call, and I just will never forget you literally rubbing that mole and going, this totally looks benign, but if you think something has changed, let's do it. And really, honestly, I almost think that saved my life, because a lot of doctors are the wait and see, but they're not going to kind of factor in that. Sorry.
It's okay.
That instinct, they kind of might dismiss that intuition might be kicking off, Yeah. And so, golly, I can't believe this.
It's okay.
But thank God you did it. I mean, thank God you just said, according to criteria, this looks like nothing, but wasn't the case.
Going off of patient intuition for me is also a really big part of practice, because while, we have 10, 15 minutes together in an exam room, that's such a small amount of time to really sometimes put all the pieces together. And as a patient, you see your skin daily.
Yeah. And you have to advocate for yourself.
You do. Being a patient advocate, advocating for yourself, that is super important. And that's what you were doing there that day.
Yeah, I do think, But thank goodness that there are a lot of medical practitioners, and that they would just, they don't factor that in. And that's what I think was the difference here, because, and then I really was like, okay, you took care of business. They took it and, la-di-da-da. And then I got that call. I was driving to Atlanta, and I knew from the tone of, it wasn't Mallory. I can't remember who called, and I was like, no, I can handle it. You have to tell me. I can't not hear, and then so you called me right back, and you said, it is melanoma, and it had some bad numbers associated with it. So
it's interesting, because in 18 years of seeing patients and having experiences where we delivered news that's not pleasant, as a clinician, that never ever gets easier. It doesn't.
Imagine.
And the reason why, obviously it's heavy information that you're telling someone, but also it's such a wild card moment, because on the receiving end as a patient, I never really know what the response is going to be, because there are patients where they hear this news and it's devastation. It devastates them and they react, and there's that scenario. But then there are patients that, you tell them the news and they, it hits them and they ask questions and it's now what's the next step, and it's a good sense of communication.
Yeah.
And then, true story, you actually have a moment where you tell a patient this information and the first question is, so where do we stand on tanning?
Yeah.
Where do we stand on the tanning bed?
Don't even get me started.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So it's always sort of a sense of unpredictability with a patient of, we're going to have this conversation, but I don't always really know how a patient is going to receive that information. So that's always sort of a sense of anxiety too, as a provider, not really knowing what to expect there.
Yeah. And also just what it means. Like suddenly you have a part-time job, in addition to life to take care of this. Like
that's right.
And you know that. And also you want reassurances. And I mean, as a professional, you can't say, like, I just wanted to say, someone to say, you're not going to die, but y'all can't because you don't know. The surgery hasn't happened. You don't, I mean, like I said, the numbers that came back they were worrisome.
Yes.
And so you just want all that reassurance, but you can't, someone can't give it, so you can't get it. Like, you just like, all right, time to plow through this and see where it takes us. So
I think it's very hard to hear you have cancer.
Yes.
But to your point, you don't really know anything else other than just that.
Yes, exactly.
So when we had that conversation, when we talked and you heard the word melanoma, what was the first thing that went through your mind in that moment?
That I'm going to die. Because melanoma, they have made great strides, and treatments are much more successful. And but for my age people, anytime you heard someone had melanoma, you thought they were going to die,
There is definitely that sense of unknown.
Yeah. But like I said, great strides have been made. That's why you have to be diligent. You can't put those things off if they worry you. Buck up, get in there. Biopsies don't hurt.
Right.
And like I said, most of the time things are fine. Mm-hmm. So just go get it done, because if they're not, if I had waited till June, I don't know, it would be a totally different story. I don't know where if it would have been. If it would be, maybe I would have be fine, but I don't know that.
But maybe not.
I know.
There is that unknown.
Yeah, because this one, every doctor you talk to about melanoma, they basically say, we're not going to, I've had one of them just flat out say it, we're not going to F around with this. Right. Like, this is not something to be trifled with. So
months matter.
With
a diagnosis melanoma.
And so, and since mine had spread, and that was another thing. So, first of all, you sent me to Dr. Valier.
Yes. Talk a little bit about what your treatment, what the process
that man,
was.
My king. So he is amazing. So the process was first surgery. They took a big chunk out of my arm, and then, of course, lymph nodes to see what had happened there. And so
what did they find with your lymph nodes?
That it had spread. Mm-hmm. Now, it was a very little bit to only one lymph node. So, literally, the clock was ticking, literally.
Yeah.
So, but since it was 0.02, I guess millimeter or whatever of cells or something. Anyway, very little amount. But the problem with melanoma, which is another just kind of bam to the face, is that if it spreads at all, they stage you stage 4. So suddenly you're looking at a sheet of paper that says stage 4 melanoma. Well, that's not the same as stage 4 breast cancer or stage 4 pancreatic. But when you've lived your life again, hearing word stage 4 kind of means someone, there's a good chance they're going to die. It just felt like it was someone tell me I'm going to be okay. And I'd get another thing that would say, well, we don't know,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but between you and him and my lack of patience, we got in quickly. Within, I think it was on March 1st, I got my diagnosis. And then by April 10th or April 5th, I can't remember, I had 13 doctor's appointments and a surgery. And so that was all the scans. I mean, PET, brain, everything. They scan everything. The surgery, what else? Just oncologists. I mean, it was just boom, 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 boom. I mean, that's all I did for that month of March and into April was new doctor's appointments, this, that. And I mean, so it's like, because it wasn't going to be, well, he can see you, May. I just can't do that. Like,
yes. Melanoma patients become a priority.
And I think I saw that.
Yeah.
So,
which speaks to the whole concept of time is of the essence with this diagnosis.
Exactly. And you felt that, which then also is very scary.
For sure.
So we got the surgery. He did it. He's amazing. And then he is so thorough and honest, but comforting at the same time, And so I remember post-surgery, we were in there and he was so funny. And he's like, so I just went to this conference and this is the future. And he had this circulating DNA pamphlet. And he said, but the good news is that the future is here. And so he wanted me to do this circulating DNA because they also needed data.
Talk a little bit about what the circulating DNA test talks about.
So, I mean, this is incredible. And it's getting more and more, known. But basically what they did was they were able to take the tumor and send it to San Francisco. And then the lab there designs a DNA-based test on the tumor, all the markers that were cancerous and, all of those things that made that tumor melanoma. Then for really literally the rest of my life, they can come and draw blood. They come to your house and they can compare your blood to that test that they've created. And so it will tell you on a cellular level before it would show up in any scans if this tumor is coming back.
That's remarkable.
It is remarkable. And so it's crazy, really. And so I've had 3 and they're all negative. And I've had treatment. So chances are good that tumor's not coming back.
Yes.
And so now, I don't never say never.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to jinx myself. But now, so it's the diligence of if anything else pops up. A new tumor. It wouldn't be necessarily that one popping up somewhere else. I guess it could be. But we just have to make sure anything that looks funny goes, which you do.
Absolutely. We see a lot of each other.
How many I've said, what about this one? Let's do it, and take it off. They took, in the surgery, they took the one off my face, which I'd had my whole life. But they said it looked so similar to the one on my arm. And that, was benign, thank goodness. But that, like, a plastic surgeon had to come in and remove that, sew it up. But, that meant, the diligence. It's the diligence after. And this is what's so weird about melanoma. Well, then I'll back up a little bit. Then Dr. Valier sent me to Dr. Holland because once it spread, they said, we advise you get a year of Keytruda, which is kind of like a super antibiotic. And it you might tolerate it, you might not. I had really good luck with that. It wasn't until the last few treatments that I did kind of just feel ragged out, and it kind of messed with my taste, and it did fry my thyroid, which I don't think that's going to come back. But it's nothing. I mean, it's not a big deal. So you go every 3 weeks for a year to the same place where people are getting chemo, which I know everyone's lives have been touched by cancer, but that is not fun, because you almost feel guilty because you feel like you're probably going to be okay. You at least for that year are healthy sitting there. And
it's interesting that you had a sense of guilt in that moment.
Every time, because it's like you literally would look around and just go like,
thank goodness
I'm grateful
well.
I'm healthy, but a lot of these people aren't gonna make it.
Right.
That is not fun to do.
Yeah.
Every 3 weeks for a year. So but it does give you a lot of gratitude.
Indeed.
I mean, really, over and over and over. So got through that pretty well. And that was a year, but the bummer is they won't count your 5 years until you finish that. So I know.
Kind of like 6 years.
Exactly. So, but that's okay. And then Dr. Holland and Maria, they handled that part of things, and they're great as well. And they watch you close, and you just go in every time, and they make sure everything's responding well and you're not having any severe reactions. And that's only when the thyroid level would show up. But there were really no symptoms from that. So if that's the worst of it, that's okay.
So your team included a surgical oncologist doing your surgery, medical oncologist managing your Keytruda. So you definitely had a team around you.
Still coming to you every 3 months. Yeah.
Yes.
So, and then that doesn't include that, like every 6 months, brain MRI,
Right.
full
Radiology.
MRI,
Yep.
or a CT scan. With melanoma, you have to tell your dentist to check your mouth because it can show up there. You have to tell your gynecologist that, you have had melanoma. You have to tell, if you go to an ENT, they have to check your ears. Like, the weird thing is, and that's why you get the brain MRI, because it's sneaky, and it can show up anywhere.
You're exactly right.
And that's the thing. I'm fine. I'm healthy. There are some, pluses that come with something like this. You do get healthier. You do have more gratitude, all of those things. But you do also, live with a low-grade terror. But that keeps you motivated.
Yeah.
It keeps you motivated. But you do 3 or 4 times a day probably go, oh, please don't come back, But again, I'm very lucky.
It's interesting. I think that 2 types of patient can come out of a scenario like what you went through.
Mm-hmm.
One type of patient, I think, comes out and they become very diligent, very proactive. They're very vigilant about their skin checks, their follow-ups. They are very involved in their health decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a very positive thing that can come out of it. But then you can also have a scenario, I think, where patients, it becomes a point of fixation and an obsession. And patients come in and literally they will say, any mole, take it off. Take them all off. And I mean, obviously the ones that look abnormal, we do.
Yes.
But, there gets to be a point where it's like, okay, it's not practical to cut off every single mole. But, where do you feel like you fell on that spectrum?
I think I felt more. I fell more on the just let's be diligent.
I agree.
But like I say, it does pop into your head. Or if you do see something, just. You're just like, okay, I just keep it in notes.
Yeah.
Just keep my list.
I love that you come in. You come in with a list. It's great because you forget.
You totally forget. And then you just it'll say, as of April 13th, 2025, these are the ones. And a lot of times they're repeats, but oh well.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's okay. I say every time come in, bring that list.
Yeah.
And let's hit the list and make sure we cover those things very carefully because those are the things on your list, most likely, that you're noticing.
Yes, exactly.
Just like what brought you in to begin with.
Yeah.
And
so far, we've done probably, maybe 3 to 5 biopsies, and they've all been fine,
Yes. Which I tell patients, when you have a history of melanoma, you're going to be biopsied a lot,
I'm
because
all about it.
Right. Same. It gives the patients a peace of mind. It gives me a peace of mind of knowing that we're not missing anything.
Yeah.
It's better to over biopsy at that point.
I think so too.
Just being cautious,
Yeah. Who would have thought this one was? And
That's
I do
right.
have one funny, it's not funny, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So that night when I found out, I couldn't sleep. And I was like, I had one daughter at college. I was like, I'm just going to go up in her room because I know I'm going to be on my phone for a little bit because I just couldn't sleep. And I was on Instagram and I was scrolling and suddenly a post popped up from you. And it said, because I always say it wrong, but it's
Amelanotic
melanoma.
Yes.
Which basically means it's not going to present the A, B, C, D,
That's right.
E or whatever that
It's
we always
completely
learn.
outside of that.
Yeah. It looks like nothing.
Right.
And so I'm laying there and suddenly it said, I can't remember what it said, but like, watch out. It discussed that. And I was like,
Yes.
oh, she might be up too.
I was.
And it was just so weird. It was like this, like, the universe connecting
We
us.
were on
that
the same wavelength.
And I don't know that I ever told you that, but it made me, I mean, it was funny too,
Yes.
especially now because,
Right.
things do look positive. But at that time, I was like, aghast.
You were definitely on my mind. I'll tell you that.
So I always thought that was pretty funny. Just like, the connection in the ethers.
Right.
So
after your diagnosis, what did your support system look like? Did you find that you turned to a group to find that support, or did you find more strength in just sort of navigating it privately? What did that look like?
So, well, I have a great husband who would have been there at every single appointment that I had. But there's also a little bit, and then I also, had to just, I didn't want to scare my kids because things looked promising. And so, hey, this is just what we have to do, and didn't want to, because they were, I think, more afraid than they let on.
Yeah.
But, but they're kids. They're teenagers, one in college, one was starting college. Like, you didn't want to be their preoccupation. They needed to launch and go, do their thing. Excuse me.
That's such a mother.
Well, I think
feeling,
that, yes, exactly. And so basically, in order to not have it dominate for that year, I feel like I just have the ability to like do it. And it already does. It sounds crazy, but it takes up so much time. Really does.
Mm-hmm.
Like, every 3 weeks, that was going to be 2 or 3 hours to go sit and get the treatment, doctor's appointments, just scans. It's a lot of time. So I thought, I'm more of a solo operator in those ways. I have the support if I want it, 1,000%. But he also then kind of knows me to not like, it almost seemed more maudlin to have someone there with you. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
It kind of makes it feel bigger.
Yeah.
So I just did it more solo because that's my preference.
Yeah.
That is just like, there's literally nothing he can do but sit here with me. So why am I going to make him have this equal time, usage, when if I needed it, I would have done it. I would have had, if I were like, this is so scary, this is terrible, be here with me, I would have done it that way. But it didn't feel that way. It felt more like, go get it done.
Fight.
Yeah,
fight.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then, just like it's just like the last one, they made me ring the bell. And I was just like, oh, it just felt so horrible doing it.
Wow.
Just the guilt again, just like also to kind of downplay it and the guilt. And, because I'm like, a lot of the people in this room, they're not going to ring it, And then it was sort of like, I think the nurses like to hear it,
Yeah.
So I did it. But it was a great feeling, but it was, more emotional than I thought it would be.
Interesting. Going through this whole process, going through the surgeries, the treatments, the imaging, all of the things that go with it. Obviously, there's a very physical recovery process that goes with surgery.
Yeah.
There's also this mental health, emotional healing that goes with a diagnosis like what you received.
Yeah.
What did that look like for you?
Well, I think it almost produced adrenaline. Like, like you said, you got to fight,
Yeah.
So it did that. And by going, every 3 weeks to the oncologist and then every 3 months to the surgical oncologist and getting good reports, it helped kind of
Boost.
Yeah. And I'll never be as confident as I was before this that I'll be okay, just because it does zap that confidence, like I'll have people that will say, like, oh no, I know I'll never get it. I'm like, do not say that. Do you think I didn't think that?
Yes.
And so Excuse me. So it was a weird mix of like, okay, this is kind of like things will work out, but don't get cocky.
Right.
You know, it's like that.
It's a very humbling experience.
Very humbling. I mean, I cannot tell you. And it's still, you know, like I just finished a round of you know, MRIs and brain scans and all of that. And like I say, I do feel pretty confident the results are going to be, you know, positive, but
there's still
never
that
100%. Yeah.
That lingering pit.
Yeah.
I would think of, but what if it's not?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but again, that can be motivating.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of a little bit of a cycle,
Yeah.
you know.
That's exactly what I meant when I was saying how this kind of instance can really mold a patient into being very vigilant and being very proactive and keeping patients on their schedule. And I think that's a way to take something good from something that can be very devastating.
Yes.
You know?
And I mean, there is something too, you know, I'm looked at well, you know, like
you are.
Yeah. So what if some other weird thing pops up, you know, like, you know, and that'll go on for a while.
Yeah.
You know, I have to get all those scans and everything for a few more years. So, but I'm okay with that. If it keeps everything at bay.
So how has this diagnosis, how has it changed you? Personally, how has it changed relationships, the way you look at things? Has it changed you?
I think it has. I would say it has, and it definitely can crystallize moments. Like, you know, that doesn't really make sense, but like when you start feeling that stress or anxiety over stupid things, I do feel like I have a stop point or a stop sign in my emotions that makes me go, all right, calm down. You know, this is really nothing, you know? And that's not terrible.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of gives you a better perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, that definitely does happen. Like, you're just like, seriously, this is a big deal, you know? So, I mean, that's a gift, you know? So, I don't know. I try to focus on the good things it gave me and not get too worried about, you know, but it is a low grade worry.
Yeah.
So,
What about your family, your daughters? Has it changed them in any way? Because you know,
I kind of just kept going.
You did.
But I think so. They definitely were dialed into it, but I feel good that we kept it to where it didn't dominate them.
For sure.
You know, I do think my younger one, it did, you know, cause some anxiety because she was just like coming out of the pandemic, graduating from high school, you know. And my older one, I guess here's what it is. Like, they kind of can appear to not have it being very impacted by it, which was my goal. But then you can tell at times when you go like, oh, I've got some, like I always have to say, oh, it's just an appointment. It's not, it's just a checkup. And then you can hear them go, oh, okay, good. Like, I do think it seeps in, you know, a little. How can it not?
I think that's something too, you know, when patients are going through, you know, a cancer diagnosis, it's easy to, you know, really focus in on the patient. And in fact, I mean, you should. But I mean, a cancer diagnosis, it can affect the whole family. And it can affect everyone. So I was curious to sort of get a feel for, you know, has it helped them to see the importance of the diligence of skin exams? To be cautious with their sunscreen.
Yes.
Has it helped to improve how they take care of their own skin?
1,000%. And they have, and they've gone since they can remember. You know, like I've brought them in every year because that's on the rise with young people.
Without question.
Yes. So, but I don't know if you'll remember this, but my oldest came in last summer because she had a mole she was worried about. And she was very nervous. It was benign. Y'all took it because of my history, and it was benign, but I could tell it was kind of flipping her out.
Yeah.
And rightfully so, in other words, not rightfully so, but like, of course it
Understandably,
did.
yeah.
So I think while there can be a perception of, I think it can be more subconscious with them, but I think it definitely has imprinted on them, like, sunscreen and, all of it. And, they come in every year now. Yeah, I mean, they always have, but like they take it very serious. So it's, you feel kind of bad about that. But if it sets them up for good skin health,
there
then,
you go. That was what I was hoping you were going to say.
Yeah.
Because it, as a patient, obviously you're more diligent, but them seeing you go through what you've been through, it does change them, and it can be in a positive way, in the sense of having them be more routine with their skin exams, having them check their own moles routinely, being careful to put the sunscreen on, reapplying it routinely, staying out of the tanning bed, because that's a big one in the younger age group.
Yes.
We know that causes cancer.
A 10 to 15% increase for it doesn't take much in that tanning bed.
It doesn't.
And I grew up in South Louisiana, and I'm of the age where it was the baby oil and we didn't know. Now, I do feel lucky that I think I went in a tanning bed once or twice, and I forbid it for my girls,
Yep.
And I probably stopped laying out at 30. Like, I haven't even been in the sun. I mean, I've been hats and sleeves and everything for 30 years, and it's still.
Which makes your case even more
like
concerning and scary, especially for providers, because you have patients that come in and they say, I really haven't had the sun damage, the sun exposure. And that immediately, I feel like, for me with a patient, sort of lowers my level of concern, because you're not looking at a sun-damaged patient.
Yeah.
In fact, your skin is beautiful. So, I mean, that again, we go back to listening to the patient.
Yeah.
When there is a concern on the patient's end, I take it seriously. And like I said, I would much rather over biopsy than to under biopsy and miss something.
And you did. I mean, I think about it all the time, just that, I think, like when you were at your other place, I was like, oh, I might come and see, like one of the girls had an appointment or something. And then after that, I was like, no, I am going to see it. And just the timing of your move a lot gave me, because I think about too, like if you hadn't moved and it hadn't been till my next appointment, like, I don't know what would have happened.
What could 4 months have, resulted in?
I think since it started to move, it probably wouldn't have been great.
I mean, especially when you look at something like melanoma that is so serious and that can be so aggressive. 4 months can make a difference. That's why we do the every 3 month skin checks for a period of time after a diagnosis.
Yeah.
Because those months matter.
Right.
I
come in next week, actually.
I know.
But I just will never forget that moment. Like you literally were sitting there kind of running your finger over it and going, I don't see anything, but if you think we should take it, we'll take it. Like,
yeah,
that was a very pivotal moment in my life.
Mine too, actually. I remember just looking at it like yesterday and literally thinking to myself, I mean, she's had it for a long time. It doesn't look abnormal. We use a dermatoscope to look at lesions magnified. There was really nothing about it that
it was still as smooth as it was. And, just, like I said, maybe it had itched one time, but I don't even know if I'm remembering that correctly, So, anyway.
It was meant to be for us that day.
I mean, really.
Yes.
So, because, I stopped myself from thinking, if different decisions had been made that day. So
thankfully we went the route we did.
That's right. And I'm thankful every day. So
if you could say one thing to the listeners right now, what would it be?
It would just schedule that skin check. I mean, I have so many people that I say that to, and they're like, "Oh, well, I don't have any problems," I don't. But they don't. Or I go to the derm, but they don't go for skin checks, and that's the difference. And so there's Melanoma Monday every year, and just like, this is not my comfort zone. I have 2 of the 3 posted, like, just schedule skin checks for you and your kids. Like, go get that baseline, and if one person will do it, then sharing this, is worth it. Yeah. And so I hate to do it. It's always 11:58 p.m. on Melanoma Monday that I do it. But it's like, it was so close for me. And I just think, like, don't be in that same situation. Also, if it hasn't spread, that's a whole different ballgame. There's no treatment. Sure. There's, like, they'll watch you, but you don't, it's all of that other stuff doesn't happen. So go catch it. And especially if it is a mole that shows those A, B, C, D, E. Does it go to E? Yes.
Yeah. Evolving.
Yes. Yeah.
Changing moles.
This one is weird. It's not the norm. But if you have one that is doing those things and you don't go get it checked, it's not the right call.
Right.
Yeah.
Melanoma is treatable. You can treat it. You can cure it when you catch it early.
That's
early
right.
detection is everything.
Everything. And if you don't, your prognosis is not good.
Right.
So think about it from that point of view.
Yeah.
What is it? 45 minutes out of your day,
Yes.
Just go do it. Why are you going to let fear and anxiety possibly, put you down a road you can't return? So
right.
That's crazy to me.
Yes.
So
being proactive, being diligent, staying on top of your skin checks, all things that equate to only positive outcomes.
That's right. That's right. So,
Bridget, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I know it's so personal, and you have no idea how much I appreciate you coming on here today.
Well, I mean, thank you for having me. Like I said, this isn't really my wheelhouse, but it is. I'm grateful every day. I really am, because, like I said, the alternative, not great.
Right.
So glad for that moment we had 2 years ago.
Me
and
too.
Glad that we're sitting right here.
Me too.